want your love.
What is the deal, beautiful people? It's your boy Ramon, Lifestyles Defined. Let's talk about Google and the new Nexus 6P. Yeah, this is the balls to the wall flagship phone that Google's pretty much just announced. We'll be able to get our hands on this shortly. Yeah, so what's interesting about this, first of all, is the name. They didn't call it the Nexus 7, they call it the 6P. And that's sort of along the lines of the logic that Apple does, where you get the 6, the 6S. You know, they're very hesitant to, I guess, brand it a whole new experience. And if you look at the specs of what it is, you know, it's more of a bump over the last year's offering, more so than an entire leap in hardware. So, you know, I kind of get where they call it this Nexus 6P. I can get that. So let's break down the specs. It's coming home with a brand new Snapdragon 810 processor. The Motorola, you know what? Let me reverse. First of all, this thing is made by Huawei, and that's something that us here in the United States we're not used to, is Huawei phones. And I've always admired their phones from far. I think they did a good job at some very clean hardware. Although they can mimic Apple sometimes, but who doesn't? Who doesn't like to flatter Apple every now and then? But yeah, so Huawei gets their shot at the Nexus program, and this is why I think the Nexus program is so dope, is it gives other OEMs the chance to really flex their muscle and showcase what they can do, or in some cases can't do. But anyway, so going back into the specs, you've got the Snapdragon 810. The Motorola Nexus 6 had an 805. The 6P comes home with the brand new Adreno 430. Again, the previous Nexus had the 420. And this guy, the 6P, has 3 gigs of memory, and it's DDR4, and the previous version had DDR3. So there's some definite improvements in the hardware, and I don't think it's anything that's gonna scale a wall and make you go, wow, that's a complete difference in computing power. I need to go get this. But new year, at least they did a little something to justify why you would want to come out of your pocket, right? In terms of display, the Nexus 6P has a 5.7-inch display with a resolution at 2560 by 1440. Yes, that is QHD. Before, it had the Nexus, the Motorola version, had a slightly larger display at 5.96 and pretty much the same resolution. Now, it's an interesting trade-off, right? Because the design of the 6P, I think, is a lot cleaner, a lot more compact, a lot less bezels, and you know, that 5.7-inch may seem just around the same size as that almost 6-inch. So, give or take here and there. They both, the new Nexus got all the goodies you would expect: NFC, 802.11a, b, g, n, a, c, blah blah blah. It's got the new fast charging USB Type C, so that's a big plus there. That's something that wasn't there before. It's coming home with a 3450 milliamp battery. That is a huge battery. That is the size of pretty much the battery on my 1520, and I love it. I would love to see what this thing can do in the real world. Yeah, sure, they give it a big ass battery, but then, you know, it seems like every time I touch an Android phone, the battery just goes to shit. So let's keep hope alive that big battery is actually there for a reason. I remember thinking that the Nexus 6, when I reviewed it, when I was actually using it as my daily driver, had a big enough battery that should suffice, and that wasn't the case. So I'm going to reserve judgment there. You've got a 12.3 megapixel rear facing camera. What's to be noted about this is Sony optics, and that goes a long way. Sony knows their thing. I'm actually a big fan of Sony in the imagery department. So when you tell me that Sony's got a hand in that, I can kind of trust the image quality. Some of what I've seen in the sample pictures look okay, but you know how it is. What you see in the sample pictures and then what you actually take with your phone are always different. It's almost like they run these things through Photoshop, then Lightroom, and then put it out to you. But whatever. What stood out to me about the camera was the lack of optical image stabilization. I thought that was interesting. But Google did a whole segment on how they rewrote the algorithms or on processing images and so on and so forth. So again, that's one of the things that remains to be seen on if it actually does improve the imagery. The Nexus traditionally has done a terrible job at cameras and imagery. So let's see what happens here. And on the back of this guy is a brand new fingerprint reader. And when you couple that with the new Android M, you can actually, it detects your finger and turns on and unlocks the phone and turn on the screen in like a record time. So that's something that I think is dope. In the front, it's got the two front-facing or front-firing speakers, however you want to say that. Again, I think that's dope. That's actually something I really enjoyed from the previous Nexus 6. So good on them for putting that in there. And I think overall, even though the hump on the the hump on the back is definitely something you notice, I don't think it's bad at all. I think it's an attractive phone. It's a very thin phone, and from the reports of everyone who was lucky enough to attend the event, they said that it's actually really light and thin. And I like the metal chamfered edges that they have going on. I think by far this is the most premium looking Nexus device we've had. I would say forever or ever. Some people may disagree, but I like it. There's metal everywhere. There's glass. Why not? It's a beautiful phone. So yeah, it's interesting. I'll probably do a comparison video between the concepts of the iPhone 6s and the Nexus 6P. Now that everybody's out the gate, we know what everyone's showing, except for Microsoft, of course. But it's going to be interesting to see where you should spend your money this holiday season if you have not already spent it. There's been some lines at the Apple stores. But anyway, it's your boy. Leave a comment below. Let me know if you like the new Nexus 6P, if you're thinking about picking it up, if you've been rocking out with the original Nexus 6 from Motorola. What do you think about Huawei's effort? Is this up your alley? I'm out of here. Peace.